Good day, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Aakash Patel, and I'm the founder and president of Elevate Inc. We are a strategic business consulting firm helping companies that are relocating to this area and entrepreneurs that are starting their own business. We believe that all companies should learn, connect, and grow here in the Tampa Bay area. And in that vein, we decided to start a podcast during this pandemic to highlight our companies that are doing amazing things. Also, entrepreneurs that are giving back to the community and lessons that you can learn. I'm so excited for our first guest today, Joe Faw. You're going to learn so much about him and his business, Bay Properties. If you're interested in working with us, if you're interested in being on our show, please let us know and reach out to us after this viewing. Thank you so much. Good day. This is Aakash Patel with Elevate Inc., and we are at our first podcast today. This is season 1, volume 1, episode 1. And I'm so excited to have my first guest, Joe Faw. Joe, thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Joe, a lot of people have definitely heard of Bay Properties, but for those who haven't, tell us the story of how you got started and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So we started in 2003, Bay Properties. You know, I went to college out in California, lived in Mission Bay, and so we were always Tampa Bay guys. And so we kind of had the whole Bay and threw properties on the end of it. So back in 03, finishing up school, it was the only job I've ever had, actually. Had a couple internships in college, but in terms of a real job, this is the only job. So going on year 17, Bay's construction management firm. So we morphed back in the early days of doing all residential and mostly residential. Right around 2008, 2009, we decided to go 100% commercial. So finished out our residential projects, transitioned into the commercial world, and since then, kind of the rest is history, so to speak, but we're really excited for the future as well.
So 2008, 2009, I mean, that must have been a challenging time for everybody.
Yeah, so the story there is, you know, what we, in terms of being fortunate and especially in hindsight, we really got into the dollar store world. And so Family Dollar, Dollar General, Dollar Tree. And so that during that time period, we probably built from 08 to 14, maybe 50, 60, 70 of them. So that really kind of helped us kind of learn the system, learn the commercial world, understand how to navigate properly, brought us through those down years. If I wasn't reading the newspaper back then, I probably would have never known there was a downturn. So we were in that little niche at that time. So somewhat fortunate, but also kind of took advantage of it.
Now you've morphed into what you said dollar stores back in 08. To tell us some of the projects you're working on now, what's kind of been your sweet spot, so to speak.
So our sweet spot, you know, again, we're a construction management firm, so what we do, we self-perform a couple of little trades here and there, but for the vast majority of what we do is we manage the construction process. So all the way from pre-construction till you turn it over to the client. In terms of specialty, you know, we've done a lot of different types of construction, but right now our hyper-focus today and for the next 3, 4, 5 years is really centered around certain project profiles that we have. The top 4 of them right now are the self-storage segment, the fuel station segment, C-storage segment, car washes are kind of coming on strong, and then also a lot of healthcare, commercial retail, like a Five Below, urgent care centers, those kinds of things as well. So that's kind of our main focus within the whole commercial segment.
Now, is there a project that you like working on more than others? You know, I know it's tough because everything's great, but what do you enjoy the most?
Yeah, good question. So I'd say from what's a cool project or a notable project, you know, we did build, there's about 40,000 square feet in downtown Safety Harbor where we built our main office, which is a 3-story mixed-use building. So there's 3 restaurants in there plus our office. Our estimating department's on the 2nd floor in business development, and our operations and finance compliance teams are on the 3rd floor. And then in the back, we've got a multifamily that we did as well. That was just a cool process because it was also a development process. So just getting the entitlements correct, the city commission, the planning and zoning boards, everything that we needed to kind of tee that one up. So that was probably a cool, notable project. Even just the architectural elements, kind of like a West Indies type feel, was just kind of a neat project. In terms of what I think is kind of the most rewarding, I would say for me it's all about the client at the end of the day. So there's been a couple instances where we've been able to kind of get some feedback where number one, they're very happy with the team, they enjoyed the construction process, and again, just to be able to, our business is built on wanting repeat business,
right,
and that's what we're good at, and so when that happens, that's obviously a win for us. Some of the ones that I thought were kind of cool, like we did a truck stop in Georgia, and we found out, you know, within 3 months, there was like I think they beat their sales by 300%.
Wow.
Something like 400,000 gallons of gasoline a day or a month or something like that. So that was really cool. We did a fitness center over in Brandon, and that one got in all the magazines for the fitness world just because they had so many new members right out of the gate. So anyways, nothing that we did. That was obviously on the client, but it was just fun to be a part of that.
Yeah, and we're in October right now. I mean, can you believe it's going to be 2021? You and I talked about working together for last almost 6 months, and we were going to do this podcast at Elevate Inc. to entertain and host our clients and showcase how great they're doing in the community. And we were going to start in February. Of course, now it's October.
Yeah.
So COVID has shifted a lot of people's schedules, agendas. But tell us how COVID-19 has impacted Beta Bay Properties and just you personally.
Sure. Yeah, so from a company standpoint, there's been a lot of pushing and stalling of projects. The good news is that I feel like that's kind of worked itself out. So in my mind, I'm just kind of going back to, you think about March, we definitely had projects, oh, hey, we're still going to do it, but we're going to hold a little bit, right? And that was just kind of the way the world was at that time. Since September, so we kind of noticed it was almost like a light switch went back on late August, early September. Our pre-construction department's just as busy as it was pre-COVID, and so that'll kind of work itself into operations. And so we're just really excited about kind of first time in my life I've ever kind of wanted to wish away time, so to speak, but really used our time wisely during that time period, working on the business instead of in the business. So believe it or not, I probably worked harder in the last 6 months than I have in the last 2-3 years. But we did a lot of really good things. The leadership team at our company really kind of, bifurcated certain tasks and goals and initiatives that would have maybe taken us 2 years to implement. We kind of got them all done in 6 months. Some key members on our team really drove that. So that was really good. From a personal standpoint, obviously it changed the home dynamic a little bit.
Of course, yeah. Tell us about your family.
Yeah, so they're home a little bit. The Zoom was tough. I kind of feel like they got through it. The kids, I've got 2 boys. My wife did a really good job of kind of managing that whole process.
And what ages?
They're 9 and 7 years old.
Okay, so you were now a teacher too.
So yeah, and I would say I'm better at doing what I do as opposed to being a teacher. But anyway, so they're back in school now. Yeah. Everything's kind of looking on the up and up. And so anyways, on a personal front and a professional front, really looking forward to kind of getting through the end of this year. And then 2021, our pipeline and just everything that I'm seeing is very promising and cautiously optimistic for sure.
Yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs have said that it's, they've said exactly that. It's kind of a refreshing experience to reevaluate, but definitely challenging. And it seems like, you've kind of hit over that hump, and congratulations on all your success.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think, in a weird way, I'm hopeful, and I do actually believe this, that, we'll look back at this time, especially myself and our company, and almost a blessing in disguise, because I think that, the world was so busy, you don't have time to kind of think through, okay, how can I be as proactive as I want to be, have predictable outcomes, things that we said. Now we've got some processes and have done some things that, the confidence level of our ability to be able to deliver that has gone through the roof. And so we're real excited about that.
That's exciting. Now at Elevate Inc., we want to showcase things that are going on in our community. We use that hashtag helping our city and Tampa Swagger. One thing I'm really impressed about you, Joe, is you're from here. You went away and you came back here. You started a business during not the easiest time to start a business in an industry that's not the easiest as well. Yeah. But all in that, you've decided to give back to this community. Why is that important? Tell us how you've given back.
Yeah. So, on a personal front, I was heavily involved for the last 7 years with Habitat for Humanity of Pinellas County. They recently just merged with West Pasco as well. Kind of went all the way up in executive committee and vice chair, and really helped from a construction standpoint on a board, bringing that element to the team there. They grew tremendously during that time period, so that was kind of near and dear to our hearts. It was, for me, the Habitat mission is just something that resonates, right? I understand housing, I understand construction, and so from a mission standpoint, I think that just aligned. From a company standpoint, we've got a hashtag Beta Bay Cares.
I like it.
And so, there's numerous different organizations that are very meaningful to each and every individual on our team. And so what we try to do is kind of perpetuate that. And so, somebody in our office, their children, and they have diabetes, right? And so we'll kind of contribute there. Just anything that's near and dear to all of us, not just myself or the kind of other guys on the leadership team. So we try to kind of say, hey, what does everybody care about? Divvy it out, be involved, and then again, just kind of like have that appreciation mindset of we got here for a certain reason, we're appreciative of certain things, and so we want to be able to give back big time to the community.
Now, percentage-wise, I know we've talked about contributions. I mean, how much percentage do you think you revenue-wise, do you think you give back to, or have you given back to the communities you started?
Yeah, so I don't know from a revenue standpoint exactly, but over the last 24 months, it's kind of in that $75,000 to $100,000 range in terms of just contributions in hard dollars. In time, probably, a lot more than that. And again, it's something that we definitely encourage. If any team member wants to take time, do a habitat build or go to a charity golf tournament or something like that, we definitely try to encourage that and not say, oh, why aren't you at work today? We actually want them to do that and kind of schedule it because it just kind of helps being that whole well-rounded, good karma, everything that comes from that, and also just feels good culture, good ambiance to work in.
Yeah, I always see my friend Mike Sutton, who runs the Habitat for Humanity in Patel, so I know you know him, and I see the pictures of the families that get the key to their new house, and it's a remarkable experience. I'm sure you've had a few of those.
Yeah, we have, and I think I'm a big environment guy, right? So there's certain things that you can control, and so we kind of have a saying. I got it from the book Grit. Dominate the controllables. And so I think that with Habitat, one of the things that they can do is they can you can control the environment, and so that lots of the Habitat families are coming from a poor environment and they're going into a safe environment. And so what that does to the psyche of the family and just everything, it just perpetuates what we're all looking for is work-life balance, safety, being able to care about education and have a safe place to do their homework and a safe place to play outside and those kind of things. So fully agree with you in that.
Now, along the ways you talked about the book you're reading, the book you read, The Grit, what are some books that kind of helped you along the way to make sure you have a great work-life balance, make sure you have great team members and are empowering them?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are watching us that are thinking about starting a business and then, they're working somewhere and they're trying to take that leap, and it's a challenge. I know for me, it took a full year and a half to figure out what I was doing after I got in the business.
Yeah. So I'm less big on in terms of hey, I want to start my own business and all those kind of things, and just maybe I do enjoy and I like talking about and I try to perpetuate the entrepreneurial mindset.
Right.
And so I think you can do a lot of entrepreneurial type things depending on any type of role. One thing I have learned from a company standpoint is once you get to a certain stage, right, level or size, you got to kind of look at yourself and say, okay, what am I good at and what am I not good at?
Right.
So from a role standpoint, I kind of always go back to the football analogy is that, hey, you've got a quarterback, you've got a running back, you've got offensive linemen. If they all want to be different people or they want to do different things, right, it kind of falls apart from a team standpoint. So from a book or anything that I've kind of read, Grit's obviously a good one.
Yep.
Extreme Ownership's a very good one that I like. Recently, we all, as a leadership team, read the book, The EOS Model and Traction.
Yeah.
And so we were able to get a lot of, what I'll say, good insights, good structure, right? Because we're very process-oriented.
Right.
And so in order to have predictable outcomes and, again, try to achieve all of the goals and objectives that we have, you have to do it in a very strategic way, process-oriented way. I always like to use the analogy of like a Starbucks, right? If you're in Hong Kong, Europe, or Tampa, you're going to get a latte or whatever you drink, Americano, that tastes the exact same.
Yep.
And so a lot of that comes from the procurement, the process, right? And then the customer experience, obviously. So in the service industry, that's harder. But at the same time, I think the mindset's a good one. And how do you have basically the same experience no matter who you're working with at Bay to Bay, because it's just you can rely on the company, and the company becomes actually bigger than the people as long as the objectives and everything are well said. So
now I know Bay to Bay is a road on Tampa. And how did you, is that how you came up with the name Bay to Bay Properties, or is there a story behind there?
Yeah,
or?
so the Bay to Bay, like I was kind of saying in the beginning, I got to be honest with you. So I grew up, mostly Pinellas County, but went to University of Tampa for grad school and stuff like that.
Go Spartans.
Yeah, and I got to say, I don't know where I was back in the day, but I did not know there was a Bay to Bay. But obviously, I found out pretty quickly as soon as we picked that name. So yeah, so the way that it worked, I went to school at University of San Diego. That's where I got my undergrad from, and so we lived there was San Diego Bay, which is Coronado and SeaWorld and all that. Actually, SeaWorld's on Mission Bay.
Right.
So we lived right on Mission Bay during college, and we were from Tampa Bay. So we were kind of saying, hey, Bay to Bay with properties in between. So anyways, I think it would be more fitting now if the company was called Bay to Bay Construction. And we did kind of talk about changing that name, I think right around 2009 or so. And with all the licenses and the compliance, it was just easier to kind of keep the properties tagline. So.
Well, you've got a great name, and I know that you've got a great future. So talk about your employees now, the size, the projects. Where will Bay to Bay Properties, where will Joe in 5 years? What are you going to look like?
Yeah, so, from a size standpoint, last year we did a little over $80 million in revenue. This year we'll be down from that just from COVID with the stalling and pushing. From an employee standpoint, currently in the last year, we kind of range in that 57 to 65 range from an employee standpoint. From a geography standpoint, we do work all the way from Texas. Basically what we say is draw a line from Texas to the Carolinas, and everything southeast of that is our geography. That's where we're licensed. That's where we have sub bases. That's where a lot of our employees live and work and every single day. From a where are we going in the next 3 to 5 years, again, hyper-focusing on those project profiles I told you about previously, and just really doubling down because we're so confident, we're good at it. We've done a lot of those projects. We can add a lot of value and that kind of thing. So I see us doing a lot more of that. Our goal would be, in the next year or so to break that 100 million mark, get to the 150 million mark. And again, not because revenue is the most important. We all know that net income matters way more than the revenue side.
Of course.
But once you do get to that revenue, that size, it's kind of a little bit of a sweet spot. There's a book that basically talks about being in the middle, right? So what it says is that lots of companies can make money when they're small. They can make money when they're larger, but when they're in the middle, whatever that means to you, you want to basically acknowledge that you're in the middle and kind of get out of it, right?
Yeah.
And so I've heard stories before with electricians, for example, that, man, I made so much more money when I only had 5 guys and 2 trucks. Now I've got 50 guys and I'm not. And so to me, that's a good example of them being in the middle. So, where can you really scale? Where can you provide good service, good value so your customers and clients, everybody's objectives are being met, and you do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again.
Now, a lot of people that start businesses and are growing, and you want to see yourself, like you talked about, the next 5 years, they've talked to mentors who've done this.
Yeah.
Who are some of your mentors, and how do they become your mentors, and how often do you interact with them?
Yep. So, from an abstract mentorship standpoint, I like kind of reading a lot about certain coaches on sports analogies and stuff like that. My favorite ones are probably Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, which I'm sure is a lot of people's favorite ones. On a personal standpoint, I would say my dad, his name's Rob. So he was very involved. We actually lived overseas when I was younger a little bit, Toronto, England, came back again in 3rd grade. I was born in Dunedin, but we kind of traveled a little bit. And so he was in the information technology world. And some people might be too young to know this, but with DSL modems and things like that started kind of coming out. So he was at the forefront of that. And so our relationship, especially post-college, started really revolving around just kind of, hey, what are some good books to read? How would you handle this situation? What kind of structure would you kind of put in? So that was really impactful for me. And I would say less him telling me exactly what to do and more kind of saying, hey, have you thought through that? So he always did a really good job of forcing me to kind of think through things or learn certain things and come on up with ideas on my own and then go implement and execute on that.
And you talk about your family, your father, your kids. I mean, the work-life balance. Was it an adjustment when you're starting the business? Because I mean, entrepreneurs work 24/7, 90 hours a week, and the family life. I mean, how did you balance it, and how did you kind of structure your success?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and I'll try to be as truthful as possible, especially with what my wife would probably say with that question. So it's definitely, I think number one, you got to acknowledge and be aware that, hey, it's a challenge, right? And then number two, you have to kind of force yourself to just do things so that make it all work. So it has been a challenge. It's gotten a little bit easier recently, and I think it's partly just due to that once you reach a certain size, you let go of certain things. I recently took a different role in the company, and the person that replaced me is just as good, if not better, than I was at that type of role. So we're always just kind of trying to free up time so that we can have that healthy work-life balance. What we say is that, especially now, and I didn't say this previously because we were just having to work too hard just to get things done, but the sweet spot for us is kind of that 45 or 50 hours a week. Yeah. When someone tells me they work 80 hours a week, I don't think that's cool. I don't envy that. It's not like, oh wow, so to me, I feel like we all should have a work-life balance, and so whatever that means, whether it's 30, 40, 50, 60 hours, whatever that is, for health reasons, so working out, family time, hobbies, things like that. So it has been a challenge. Be aware of it. Try to come up with things. I like to calendar everything.
Right.
And that way it
like
just kind
paper
of forces
calendar,
me.
or you have like Outlook?
I've graduated to the Outlook, so I try not to do the paper calendar as much anymore.
People don't know what paper calendar is. They're watching
exactly,
today, so.
Right? Yeah. But no, definitely we do calendar things. And again, that's just the whole habit of just being organized. And what it also did for me was calendaring things or putting little reminders in my phone. It helped reduce anxiety. because then from a habit, I could just basically, I could wake up in the morning, first thing I do is just look at what I have going on that day. That might or might affect the way I dress or the way I'm just thinking and that kind of thing. So again, from a habit standpoint, I think it's easier if you can do that to have a better work-life balance. And then you can also manage the expectations of people that are relying on you, right? Like your kids, and I'm coaching baseball now,
Yes.
doing those kind of things. So I was trying to do a little bit of all of it and falling short, but also just trying to be aware along the way.
So the Lightning won the Stanley Cup, the Rays are in the playoffs, and the Bucks might make it to the Super Bowl with our new quarterback. How's your Little League team going to do?
The Little League team, so I'm a first-time coach. I'm an ex-soccer player, so I don't really understand baseball. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos and taking a quick course on the USA Baseball Coach certification. It's just fun, right? So they're at an age where you're just trying to make everything fun. I did have to get on them the other day. I said, hey guys, if you're in the dugout, I can't have you talking about Harry Potter. You have to be watching baseball. So, we're at that stage. And so for me, it's just if they're smiling, having fun, and want to show up again the next day, I feel like we've kind of done our job. And I am fortunate. I've got a couple of dads on the team that played college baseball. So I'm like, hey, you guys have to talk as well and help me here. So, yeah.
Now, sports has always, impacted business success for many individuals and many entrepreneurs. You were a soccer star, and you're very modest about it. Can you talk about your soccer history in Tampa and how it impacted your life?
Sure. Yeah, I'll try to be brief. So from a soccer standpoint, I grew up in England, right, when I was 6, 7, and 8 years old, and you basically can play soccer or cricket. They call it football, right, or cricket. And so I chose soccer/football. And, from that standpoint, it just kind of like, I was fairly good at it and just kind of had some opportunities because of that. Joined a club team, Clearwater Chargers, when we were 9 years old. Did that up until under 19. Had a very successful club experience, and then it was funny though. Probably the most interesting part is my freshman and sophomore year when I went to Clearwater Central Catholic High School, and they were a big soccer powerhouse, won regionals or districts, I believe, 18 years in a row.
Oh my gosh!
So they graduated a bunch of seniors. We come in 7 freshmen that ended up starting on the varsity team, which had never happened. And so no joke, I lost more soccer games my freshman and sophomore year than I have my entire life combined. And so that was very humbling, and we all grew, obviously, as young men. In junior year, you're kind of reaching maturity, and so it was fun. So we lost a bunch of games freshman, sophomore year. Junior year, so our nemesis is Jesuit at the time,
okay.
And so we lost 2 games that year to Jesuit. Ended up seeing them in the state final up in Lake City, and we won 1-0. So that was just a really exciting kind of time. And then senior year, we were all seniors. I think we at that time had 9 seniors starting and 2 juniors, and we won state again. So from that standpoint, it was a fun kind of period. From a what did it teach me from a business standpoint? Actually, I was talking to Kate Rogers, who our COO, and we were talking about the word passion. Right. And I kind of like didn't resonate with the word passion that much, because I just think at times it can, if you're passionate about soccer, well, I want to be a professional soccer player. And then all of a sudden you realize, hey, you were good in Tampa maybe, but you're not good enough to go make real money and go play professional soccer. So what do you do? And so I think the way I think about passion, and after talking to Kate, she kind of coached me up on it actually this week, is just think through what I like so much about soccer: the teamwork, the losing, the learning from the losing, the winning, how to not necessarily be on the top all the time. Make sure if there's 11 players on the team, how does every 10 of the other players play their role and you play your role as well? So my point is that when
you got to communicate.
You got to communicate, obviously, right? And it's funny you say about the communication, because when you're on a team, right, if let's say we're playing a soccer game, I might say, Aakash, go get that guy over there, mark him real quick. And you don't say to me, why were you mean to me? Why weren't you? So when you get trust up in an organization, you can then talk quickly during the day, right? And you all know that, hey, I've got aligned goals, and we're all working, communicating, and you get a pass sometimes if you're a little aggressive or a little whatever. So I just think there's so many analogies you can take from sport, playing your role, how to communicate effectively. In general, you can, so again, I would say, at Beta Bay, it's almost like the new soccer game for me. So there's teamwork, there's winning, there's losing, there's strategy, there's preparation, all those kinds of things. And so I think from an analogous standpoint, that's very applicable. And so, yeah, so that's kind of like, we use those analogies a lot. So hopefully people in our organization don't get sick and tired of hearing.
And you're going to win the state championship, just like you did in junior year of high school, right?
Right. So things are, we always kind of say, what's our Super Bowl? What's our state championship? What's this? And so you have these goals. And then the other thing is, it's like Tom Brady, right? Once you achieve them, maybe you celebrate for a day or so, but then you want to kind of do it again. So it's always like a perpetual journey, not, hey, you reached a certain revenue goal or something like that, and now, drop the mic, you're done. So I think it's, we're big on kind of be excited about the journey, enjoy the journey, have joy in the journey, as opposed to, hey, here's an outcome, get it, and now everyone's kind of like, what do we do?
I'm glad you said that about goals and Tom Brady, because I think one of the things I've read is that people write down their goals and give them to their executive team and make sure everyone's on the same page so everyone knows how to get there together. How do you do your goal setting personally and professionally?
Yeah, so on a professional standpoint, we do have specific strategies associated with our project profiles. So within that, we kind of put together objectives, strategies, and then action plans. We're big on, hey, for a year or two, depending on how far out your strategy or your goal is, that really doesn't change. Your strategy might change a little bit, but your action plans are fluid, right? Like I might need to pivot, I might need to do certain things in order to reach my strategy, in order to reach the objective. So we're big on just writing them down. When you do write them down, you also need to hold yourself accountable to them, and others need to be held accountable, right?
Right.
So we're fairly good at doing that, and what I mean by that is just, hey, we have a process of here's our strategy, here's what we're going to do, here's however, if you read the book Traction, here's the rock that people have to hold, here's what they're responsible for, and again, we do kind of review that on a quarterly basis, make sure we're hitting them. If we're not hitting them, why are we not hitting them? How do we pivot? And then kind of do it again. From a personal standpoint, I don't write out the goals personally. What I try to do is I kind of say, hey, I don't need January 1st to hit to all of a sudden I'm going to change my behavior on certain things. Right. What I would say is that I'm fairly good at just being honest with what I'm not good at. And I actually really respect that. Like anybody that just tells me, hey, you're great at everything, like you're just a liar, right? And so I don't want to be like that. And so I just try to really discern and try to think through, okay, hey, where am I falling short? What am I not good at? And I try to actually say it out loud to team members because I think it just kind of humanizes it. And then also it's like, hey, if I'm not good at it, maybe you're better. Can you help me? And then eventually I can start doing it on my own. So I think just full, true, extreme ownership and being honest.
Well, a lot of people that are watching today have learned a lot about you personally and a lot about Bay to Bay Properties. And I know that they're going to get a lot of emails and calls. And we're going to put your contact information, of course, on our screen and share this with everyone. But what are some things that you want people to take away? What are some snippets that you want people to take away about you and about your business? Because a lot of people watching today might not have heard of you or your business.
Yep. Yeah. So I think from a personal standpoint, we care. We're in our late 30s, early 40s, and from that standpoint, we're going to be here for a long time. And so reputation matters a lot.
Right.
From a professional standpoint, kind of same thing. So we're trying to change the construction experience. And what that means is that we want to make sure predictable outcomes, right? Communicate effectively. And so we've got certain processes in place to do that. We also have really good people. And so we need good people as part of our organization. And so again, just perpetuating all of that. From what I would want people to know is that, look, we care about our reputation. We respond properly. We want to make sure that you're successful. So instead of just, hey, what's our goals, right? Our goals need to align with what our clients' goals are. And then by result, we'll be successful. So we really try to hyper-focus, prioritize that. From a core focus standpoint, we definitely are four that we've kind of changed recently. We obviously believe in respect, professionalism, all those kind of things, but we just need to get a little more edgy so everyone could remember, no jerks, trust the process, hold the vision. Sundown rule, which means we communicate with everybody before the sun goes down that day, just so people, even if you don't have an answer, that, hey, Aakash, I'm looking into that, I'll get back to you kind of thing. And the other one is forget average, be legendary. So just in terms of everything you do, just kind of have a legendary experience, not just an average one.
I like the sundown rule. I don't know if I've ever heard that before.
In full transparency, so I believe Walmart, Sam Walton actually used to, I think he called it the sundown rule. Right. I think we kind of coined it a sundown habit, right? But it's basically try to communicate before the sun goes down. A lot of guys in our office, project managers, stuff say, hey, I didn't communicate because the architect didn't give me an answer yet. And I said, that's the answer. Right? You let your client know, hey, I don't have an answer yet, but this is what I'm doing to get the answer. So again, what it does is it just helps everybody realize, look, we care. We're on top of it. And I think some people fall short of that because they actually are doing something. They're doing their job. They're following up, but the person that's maybe waiting on the answer doesn't know. So again, we're big believers in that, and that's really helped from a communication standpoint in our internal and external.
Well, hashtag Bay to Bay Cares is a great hashtag, and we'll put it up on our social media.
Appreciate it.
You're going to get a lot of interest from different nonprofits watching, but I know you're a good supporter. Joe, I can't thank you enough for being our first guest. You're definitely have knocked it out of the park in the home run baseball analogy, since we're talking baseball. But thank you so much for being our first guest. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Honor. Thanks for having me here.
All right. This is Aakash Patel. Thanks so much.